My guest at this time is the owner, editor, all things bodyslam.net. It is my new good friend, Cassidy Haynes. Cassidy, good to see you again.
Hey, buddy. It's been, almost 2 months now. But
yeah, we've shared space in other scrums in the past, but we finally got to really, hang out at Double or Nothing, you know?
Yeah, it was fun, man. I was glad we actually got to do that for the first time. Because, it's been, in Chicago, we run into each other, but we never actually got to hang out and spend some time together, so that was fun.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to be hanging out a lot more at this.
Have a feeling. Strong feeling.
All right. Hey, Cassidy, look, it's not about our friendship right now. It's about the friendship between Daniel Bryan and AEW. I don't know, man. Is this the biggest story you've ever broken in your career as a pro wrestling journalist?
Easily, man. And everybody that people were asking me, how confident are you in putting out this story? I was like, well, it's obviously the biggest story I've ever broke. So, it's kind of one of those do or die with my career, you'd think, if I've dropped the ball on this one, that's a big one to recover for. But that's how confident I was in putting it out there. So if I should tell everybody, you should think about that. That's what I was saying to people. I was like, that's a big one to come back from if I'm wrong. So that's how confident I am in it. But
okay,
it's been new too, man. It's all happened really fast in the last week. So 2 weeks.
Yeah. So you broke the news that according to you, Daniel Bryan has already signed with AEW. That is what you're saying right now, right?
Yep. That was what everybody's told me that I've heard is they said it's already happened, and they're just working on plans as far as when's the best to present him and bring him in, how to capitalize off all the buzz that's now circulating around the internet.
Do you have any idea of any of the details about what he signed, like length or any other?
I didn't get length, but I know that he asked to have less dates, comparable money. He wanted to work in Japan. And he wanted to be able to do have creative input on his character and storylines and stuff, and he got all that. Is what I was told.
Here's the thing, Cassie, and I don't want to say you're wrong, but we ran an Andrade story where we noted that Andrade had gotten some creative control in his AEW contract. AEW sources vehemently pushed back to us to the point we had to post a retraction about how no wrestlers have creative control in their contract.
Yeah, it's not really control because everything goes through Tony, but it's input. He wanted creative input. So It's not really a control thing. It's just he wanted to be able to, I think this is, to voice his own opinion and input onto what they want to do creatively. And I think that's, pretty much how that was told to me. It wasn't control. It was a creative input. So.
Okay. Was there any, what was your reaction when you started putting the pieces together and realizing this was actually happening, Cassidy, before the world knew?
Bro, it was very stressful. I didn't sleep for a little bit there, and because I was hearing about that and Punk at the same time, and as I'm starting to ask around, I'm checking with some of our colleagues and people have you heard any of this? And of course, right then Sap was putting out that stuff from Punk, so I was like, okay, I really need to get to this quick because if that one's coming out, it's only a matter of time before somebody else hears this too, Yeah. And I was told that a lot of people had been hearing it, but they weren't able to get anybody to acknowledge it or confirm it for them, which it took me. Man, I've never sent so many messages and phone calls in my life, but I eventually got some confirmation back, and to the point where I was like, all right, I'm confident enough in everything I've heard to put this all out there. But yeah, I was going, man. It was stressful because I was just worried that somebody else was going to scoop me and beat me to it, but.
Totally understand that game. And so with these two things dropping at the same, because we had heard about Punk, but we hadn't reported on Punk yet because we had not heard that there was any and I still think that's the case. I don't think anybody's reported that Punk has put pen to paper the same way you're saying Daniel Bryan has. Do you think
there's been reports that he has, but I haven't been able to confirm that myself. It all kind of makes sense, especially with everything that I've been hearing as far as what AEW plans to do for Chicago, and that it's not really if he's going to sign, but it's when they present Punk in Chicago. So I was told that he's 100% there for Chicago. That was okay. I was told that around the same time I was asking and digging and trying to figure out everything else. When I was checking, I was told that their plans is they plan 100% to have him in Chicago.
Okay. All right. And so these two things kind of happening at the same time, very unique situation here, two giant names here. You had reported that because of the potential Punk signing the Daniel Bryan plans could be mixed around. What do you think? What do you think in regards to what the impact of the Punk thing has on the Bryan thing?
I think that the way I was told is the Bryan thing kind of came up first. So once that they got the ball rolling on that they tentatively planned to have him show up at Arthur Ashe. But in the last couple of weeks, this stuff with Punk has happened too. So it's all come after that. So it's not that they're like having to change up all their plans. It's they're reassessing it, trying to figure out like how do we best capitalize off this? Who should go first? Who should do this? Who should be involved? All that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it might have. Not really throwing a wrench into their plans, but just made them try to refigure out how do we do this since we have these two huge names that just kind of happened all within the same like little short windows time span. But
yeah, and obviously smacks of a couple other guys about 2 decades ago that had their contracts come up at the same time. You think there's any chance that these two kind of debut together? Is some kind of like outsiders entity type deal? I mean, Tony does sure love that nostalgia for WCW, ECW stuff.
I haven't heard anything as far as like a plan as far as who they're going to do and how they're going to do it. It just what I'd heard was Chicago for Punk, New York for Daniel Bryan. But like I said, that could have changed depending upon how the buzz of the internet's going. And because I was told that with everything that's happening and how big this has been, they're reassessing everything to figure out what's the best plan for us to capitalize on all this now attention that this has brought in the last week with Sap breaking the Punk stuff and then the stuff with Daniel Bryan.
I have many questions. All right, well but right before we started recording, you said, Nick, have you seen my latest story this morning? And I said, I've been very busy this morning, Cassidy, preparing for this interview and other things to get the week going. I don't know what it is that you broke this morning. It has to do with Chicago. Tell me now, what is happening right now?
Yesterday, I was told I was able to source this through a couple people that yesterday Tony and some EVPs flew from Champaign to Chicago for them to do. It was very tight-lipped. Nobody would really can actually tell me exactly what they were there for, but I'd heard from a couple people that it was to potentially film some promo footage at the United Center because I had told you before that I'd heard that they were looking at a bigger venue for when they come back through Chicago.
Right.
And that I'd also heard that Tony's was supposed to have an announcement soon that was a event or a venue announcement. And that kind of checks out with that. But yeah, apparently they went to Chicago this weekend or yesterday for some stuff at the United Center to film is pretty much what I was told. And I'm working on trying to figure out exactly who all was on that trip. I'll hopefully have that update maybe soon. But they were being pretty tight-lipped about that too. So I'm doing a little digging to find out exactly who was on the trip, which of the EVPs, if it was everybody or if it was just a few of them or how that went down exactly. But supposedly the Chicago thing is getting stepping up because they want that to be their biggest, their number 2 market. I guess they probably see Florida as number 1. I'm not real sure, but it was told to me that they see Chicago as their number 2 market. They want to do big things in Chicago and hit Chicago hard and really solidify that as like a home base for them. So,
gotcha. Yeah, because like right now, everybody loves All Out, right? It is out at the Sears Center though, and so for people,
the Now Arena, is that what it's called? I think this time. But yeah, it's a 12,000 seat venue, and the United Center's double that, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, the United States is much bigger. I know that for sure, but double, maybe more than double. I'm not really sure.
I don't really know exactly what the plan is for that venue, but I mean, we'd think that it would. I would think that it would be either maybe the Thanksgiving return because they did that 2 years ago. They had the Thanksgiving Eve show in Chicago, or maybe when they come back for Revolution because I think we were both told before at one of those scrums that he planned on doing Revolution and All Out in Chicago and having different venues for that. Because they did, have one in the city and then one in Hoffman. I think he talked about that when we were down in Revolution before.
Okay.
Correctly. So maybe that's the plan is to move into that to be the second venue for the city for when they come back for the next pay-per-view. I don't really know. I'm going to work on it and try to figure it out. But apparently he was there this weekend to try to do some promo stuff or finish the deal with hopefully the United Center. So.
All right. Well, I hope United becomes primary venue because it's like a 15-minute drive from my place, and it would be so much more convenient for me than going out to Hoffman Estates for the All Out shows and everything else.
We were talking about that too. That's the same for me when I go up there. I stay downtown, and that trip 45 minutes to an hour out to Hoffman's not the easiest one to make. But
dude, whatever. It's gonna be a party weekend.
I can't wait.
So, within regards to Bryan and Punk, like, have you heard anything about like who maybe they'd want to work with? Like anything in regards to stories or anything like that?
The only thing I heard from Bryan was he wanted to do Japan. So, I mean, you think that makes me think, New Japan stuff. I mean, and of course the dream match guy and any of us are like, oh, what does that mean for like the G1 maybe or stuff like that? And you start thinking about all those matchups. But with him saying that Japan was a factor in signing, that's as far as I know, as far as potential Japanese matchups with him. So
dropping Daniel Bryan in the G1 would just be, I mean, a buffet for wrestling fans,
Right. I mean, that would be something else. So I mean, that's as far as I know his plans for potential opponents. Is just that since he said that Japan was a factor in where he wanted to go, that's all I know is just all that stuff would be as far as I can speculate on.
Okay. Well, with Punk, have you heard anything about how the locker room feels about Punk possibly joining the company? I mean, I know that there are people there. I mean, in particular, here in Chicago, I know him and Cabana have not historically gotten along for some time now. I don't know if you've heard anything about how the locker room feels about Punk.
I haven't. I asked. That was what I started when I started doing my digging for the most part. So just to ask about that story that Sat put out. That's when I started hearing more and more about Daniel Bryan, because I was trying to ask about Punk to begin with, and then it just kind of snowed that way. But nobody really said anything. I think they were finding out, most of them, at the same time all of us were. I think very few people knew about that one.
Yeah,
but,
man.
I mean, as far as I know, everybody seems to be really excited that I've talked to, because this is huge, for them. I don't think anybody harbors any real bad feelings towards him. So, except for maybe that Punk and Cabana thing, which is interesting because with him being a producer and they're going to be in the back. So, how's that going to happen? They're going to have to interact at some point. So,
that's why I asked. Like, yeah. I'm also asking. I've heard a little bit that, like, I don't know that water's quite under the bridge yet at this point, kind of deal. So, I mean, Punk's a very territorial animal, and I'll be very interested to see that part of it. So, as you're dropping all this, Cassidy, is AEW, have they denied anything? Have you heard from anyone at the company saying you have misreported anything here, or
nobody's reached out to me? Of course, you're not going to get confirmation when you ask really for anything like that. You would assume, you know what I mean, because they're not going to try to spoil their own surprise, right now, especially something that big. But no, I haven't heard anything. I also haven't heard them. Doesn't sound like they're upset with me for doing it either. I've actually got some emails back about homecoming next weekend or next week in Jacksonville. So I broke the Daniel Bryan's story before they let me know about media stuff for next week. So I think I'm all right. Hopefully, right there. I figured I probably wouldn't have got media for next week in Jacksonville if they were blackballing me already. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what do you want to see with these guys, Cassidy? Like, take your journalist hat off and put on your fun hat here. Like, these guys are coming. It sounds like. Yeah. What do you want to see as a fan from these two?
Man, I honestly, I was a big CM Punk fan before, so I can't wait to see him just back on the microphone and just talking and just getting back in the ring with all these people. Like they're Andrade. I want to see some Andrade matches with him, and Bray Phoenix. And just all these guys, man. It's endless. It's endless the amount of dream matches that could happen from those two guys showing up.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I can talk all day about who I want to see him wrestle, man. It's everybody.
How much of a game changer do you see if both of these guys wind up in AEW here, like in the not too distant future? I mean, that's two big names that are going to be floating to AEW and taking their fan bases away. How big of a move do you think this is right now in the landscape of everything?
It's huge. And I think that the ticket sales and the stuff this week even shows that. Since the news came out, I think they've had a bump in ticket sales and prices have gone up too. So I think that right there says a lot for it. I mean, it's huge. It's a game changer. I think it's the equivalent of what maybe Kurt Angle doing the jump to TNA when everybody really kind of solidified them as being like, okay, well this is real now. This is somebody that everybody held in real high regard and real high standard. I mean, Daniel Bryan's a future Hall of Famer. Everybody would agree, right? So you have him come over when he still sees himself as being in his prime with lots of gas left in the tank. It's big, man. It's real big.
You haven't heard or asked about the Bellas, have you? Because I'm kind of interested to find out what goes on with Brie.
All I heard was that their show contract and stuff is up with the E Network. Anyway, right. It ran up on its own, right? So I saw people saying something about they wouldn't have quit. He wouldn't have convinced them to quit. I was like, they didn't quit. I'm pretty sure their show was up, but I was hearing they were coming back. anyway before. Like, that's what everybody was saying. But I mean, look, Andrade and Charlotte work in separate companies, and I mean, it can happen.
Yeah, I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I heard anything. And I mean, he wanted less dates, and that's the thing with AEW. You work 2 days a week on average. Usually, you fly in Tuesday, you work Wednesday, and you do if you're doing any tapings, and you're back home Thursday. So I mean, you got plenty of time to do the family thing. I mean, there's a lot there that's that's what I'm looking for, enticing, or good, that these guys didn't have when they were working for Vince. All these days off and the nice easy schedule, and how much fun I've heard everybody says they have down here too. So
yeah, well, rock and roll. All right, hey Cassie, I want to thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. Keep up the great work. Is there anything you want to tease that maybe you're working on or have coming up, or where they can find you, follow you, anything like that?
You can follow me personally on Twitter at I think my tag's right down here. It's CASSHOOOLE. And that's pretty much me on everything on social media. Use that, and you should find me wherever. Body Slam Net, that's the site's website. We've got a YouTube channel. I think if you search Body Slam Net Pro Wrestling, we're on there. We did an interview with Shaz and McKenzie last night. Not really an interview. We just hung out and talked on our show for like 2.5 hours. I don't even know if we really covered anything important, but we were just BSing for hours. So we got that kind of stuff. Come find me, man. We're around. And as far as stuff I'm working on following up on this Chicago stuff. Hopefully I'll know some more in the next day or two on that. But we'll see. I'll be in Charlotte for Fight for the Fallen, so I'll try to do some digging this week down there. Fun at the show there, so I'll let you guys know.